Welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I'm here with Donald, Rob, and joining us today is Sarah. And you are listening on sportname.com/player, Sportswire Radio. Sarah, how have you been?
Lovely. Bored, but lovely.
What was your initial reaction to the shutdown?
I was furious because I felt like it was just, in a way, the players think it's necessary, but us fans are just outraged about it because you couldn't make this, shut down, I don't know, in the middle of the season maybe. And it kind of would have been stupid if it was the middle of the season, but you have to do it now. That was it was like, okay, we're bored. What are we going to do? Like, what are you shutting down in the first place? That was another thing. Because I was trying to figure out really initially what was going on until the whole baseball switcheroo came about. And I was like, oh, great. This is another problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you understand it, but a lot of the people that may not is, because of the CBA, when there's no contract, there's no work.
Yeah.
And, hopefully they could resolve that, in a timely manner where we can get baseball back, especially that the hustle was just heating up really nice. And then we went from chaos to nothing. And that's where a lot of our frustration is, because it was, the baseball was in the headlines for a change, especially locally in New York with the way that, the Giants and the Jets were playing. At that time, baseball was still, basketball was still finding its, rhythm, with the games. So baseball was really front and center for a while, mainly due to Cohen, being as active as he was, and Steinbrenner, who was still taking a nap. So it really, the timing of it was terrible for the New York market more than any other.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I woke up the next morning and I knew the lockdown was going to happen. I didn't initially think they would go through with it. But at the same time, like, it happened literally 2 days after the Dodgers traded Seager. And I was already salty about that shit. I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm getting like all these people on my Instagram, like, they think the guy died. So now they're all posting things about a funeral. And I'm like, you Dodgers fans need to chill. Okay. He didn't die. He's fine. But still, everyone was just pissed off. And then, Manfred's going to lock down MLB. Great.
Yep. And even the people that are salty at the players, it was the owners that voted for the to stop, communication.
Yeah.
So you really can't get too much on the players because they want to make sure they're fighting for a contract for their security, and money aside, we know that they make more money than they could spend in a lifetime. But, it's still the principle of it where they're fighting for their family's future, while these, so you got billionaires fighting with billionaires.
Yes.
And us low-class low-income fans, we're the ones that suffer for it.
Low class.
Huh?
Low class. Low class. Oh my God.
That's a good segue though into what happened with Frazier yesterday. If you want to talk about class.
Yeah, Rob, you want to break down Frazier's comments? You did it very well.
When I say low class, I'm not talking about Clint Frazier. I'm talking about the fans, because they certainly were being very low class, because he was just commenting about how he likes the Cubs jersey, and then people got angry at him because he's no longer a Yankee, and I'm glad you're gone, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, I'm glad I'm gone too. Why would he be like, no, I'm not glad I'm gone from a team that didn't play me? They didn't give him a chance. They gave him a chance in 1 year, and then he struggled for 8 games, and they benched him. So why would you want to be there? He's just, defending himself, and then fans have been bad-mouthing this guy since we got him. They didn't like him on Twitter. They didn't like his haircut. They didn't like, the fact that he played video games, or the fact that he liked shoes a lot. They complained about everything. Every single thing. So now he finally speaks his mind a little bit, and they get mad at him. And then he says, hell, I'm glad I'm gone too. And then now they're angry. So, it's that being a Yankee is not what it used to be, sure. But it certainly isn't easy when you have the fan base, some of it, not everybody, some of the fan base attacking you for every little thing you do, and then they get mad at you when you kind of defend yourself. So I don't have a problem with what Frazier did at all yesterday. Some people might, but I don't think he was in the wrong. I think
Here's Clint Frazier's tweet here. Says here, first off, these uniforms, he's got a picture of him in a Cubs uniform. These uniforms are so sick. I'm so excited to join the Cubs. One of the biggest reasons I chose to come here was the fan base and how electric you guys can be towards your players. I'll be just as electric for you guys too. Here's to leaving my razor at home. So
I was on board with I agreed with every single word that he has said right there. That's what you want to hear from a player that's coming over to your team. The razor thing, I think that's what started the snowball effect of all the hate coming through Twitter.
He doesn't help himself, Rob.
No.
I mean, I think this is the two sides, man. I think this is two sides to the story. I think the Yankees, obviously, the way they treated him, I never agreed with it. I don't understand why they never gave him a chance when he was actually good. And Frazier didn't help himself because he's immature, and his immaturity shone right through there at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, when people leave organizations, even if they're not happy there, they tend to send out a thank you Insta or thank you tweet, just going, hey, just want to say a big thank you to the Yankee organization for giving me a try, give me a chance, and the fan base for accepting me, and I'm looking forward to my new start. That's how normal sportsmen tend to do. That's how they tend to move on from organizations. But Clint Frazier was the opposite. He's like, hey, I can't wait to be out of here too. Like, come on, man. Give me a break.
You know, you had Tyler Wade who put out a tweet like you're supposed to. You know, thank you for the fans for the 9 years, and blah, blah, blah. And that was a player that for 9 years couldn't get a full-time role. Mm-hmm. You know, and he left gracefully. And we talked about that. I think that was just a very classy move. And I hope he does well, you know, out west. Frazier, he was like, you know, the guilty, you know, lover that wanted to throw all your shit on the front lawn. You know?
That is so damn freaking true. That's actually, I said that the other day to somebody on Instagram because I follow some like Clint Frazier fans, like diehard fans, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, these people. So I posted in one of their posts or their comments or whatever. I was like, Clint Frazier's literally acting like a whiny ex. Like, take me back. Oh my God. I'm like, really? Really? It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing, honestly.
He's not just burned his bridges, he's torpedoing his bridges. He's just gone back and burnt them again.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's like we're all bored, and at the same time, it's like we just wait for these players to break down and cry. And then we're like, why are you crying? Like, you knew it was going to happen in the first place. Like, I can't. Pisses me off, but I don't know.
But that's what it is. You know, we're bored. We have not, you know, there's really no baseball going on, and we're just waiting. We're waiting for something, you know. And I saw a couple of people on Twitter putting out, you know, every time the alert goes off for the New York Yankees or MLB about the charity things, or the Yankees with everything with the Pinstripe Bowl coming up. You're waiting for that announcement to be like that. All right, business is back.
Yeah.
Sarah, how would you assess Clint Frazier's career as a Yankee?
To be honest with you, like, you couldn't even give a full like report on it because it was like, oh, he's here. Now they bring him back down to AAA. Now he's back again. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, what is going on? Like, I understand they had to keep Tyler Wade up here because he didn't have a lot of options to go back down to AAA. But at the same time, it's like you pretty much just used the guy, threw him in the corner, and said, Clint, we need you to run, or we need you to bat. Oh, but I have like this medical situation going on. Now that limits you even more from you just being a utility guy or you being a bench guy and coming off the bench when we need you. But it's like, it got irritating to the point where I was like, okay, just let the guy go.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. If you're not going to play him, move him.
But they missed opportunities, several opportunities to trade him. They could have dealt him in 2018 and got Garrett Cole, but they didn't want to trade him and Chance Adams.
Oh my God!
And Andujar was the other part of that. And where are those three players now?
Right, exactly. Chance Adams pitching in some, I don't even know where he is. Frazier's now with the Cubs and, you know, trolling on Twitter. And Andujar is more than likely going to be somewhere else when the season starts. So, yeah, I mean, this goes to another conversation about prospects, but you're absolutely right about Frazier. You can't give a fair assessment. He wasn't given a real fair shot up until this year, and they benched him at the first sign of struggle. And they kept playing Aaron Hicks, despite the fact that he sucked. They kept playing Gardner, despite the fact that he sucked. And they kept using Tyler Wade, despite the fact until the last month of the season, he sucked. And he had a lot more opportunities than Clint Frazier. So I understand Frazier's frustrations. Like, you never really gave me a shot. And then when you did, you benched me the first sign that I had, like, any struggles at the plate. He wasn't the best defender. I'll give him that. I will give you that. He didn't do a great job in the outfield. Don't know how he got a Gold Glove nomination, but you never really gave him a shot. He played like a full season's worth of games in 4 or 5 years for us. That's like the epitome of not giving a player a chance. And then you don't trade him when you had a chance to trade him. His value was up every year when you called him up and sent him down. He kept showing like he's got a chance to be good, and they didn't trade him. So the Yankees did him wrong.
They could have traded him last year, man. After his very solid 60-game season with a Gold Glove nominee, that was the time that you could trade him. Because the Yankees have never believed in him. I mean, as I said before, it's all about if your face fits with the Yankees front office. If your face doesn't fit, then you are not going to get the opportunities that possibly you deserve. It's as simple as that with them. Because as you mentioned, Tyler Wade, Hicks, I mean, these guys, those were favorites of Brian Cashman, so he's made every excuse to give them an extra chance. Gary Sanchez has been given more than enough opportunities, and far more than he deserved with some of the mistakes that he's made and some of the times that he's just egregiously not given a crap on the field, and the Yankees continue to give him a pay rise. But Frazier has never done any of that. He's never caused any of that kind of stink. And he always does tend to try, but it's because his face didn't fit exactly the way that the pinstripes need to fit, then he was never given that opportunity. Now, he didn't help himself because he is immature. I've always said that. He's very immature. And the Yankees don't like that. But he did work on it. And he did come back a little bit more mature, and he did give you something. But the Yankees never, once again, they wasted his potential. It's a story of a missed opportunity. I kind of feel bad for the guy. But then when you see that kind of tweet, then you can understand why Brian Cashman did that. Now you can kind of see it.
That was Brian Cashman's creation, that attitude. You know, because you mix in, you know, the immaturity with what you were saying with, you know, not getting a fair chance, watching, you know, Sanchez get, you know, unlimited, you know, he's got, you know, unlimited lives in, you know, in the game. Yeah. You know, and here's, you know, now you have Frazier, and he's like, well, if he's getting all these chances, why can't I get the same, you know, opportunity to prove myself? So yeah, of course he's going to be better. You can't blame the guy, but be professional about your anger. It's pretty much it.
I honestly would say the same thing. Just be professional about your anger, because it reflects off of you no matter what team you go to. Because then, like, I know Chicago, like, is the place where everybody's just like, the media is there, but they're not out in the light like New York is. So I think when players do get traded there, it's like, it's nothing. But when players go from other teams to come here, it's like sirens go off, because the media hounds you every single freaking day. The only true thing A-Rod ever freaking said in his history was, you wake up the next morning after you do something stupid, and if you don't make the papers in New York, you're lucky. because everyone makes the papers in New York. Like even the homeless guy at the corner of 42nd Street is going to make the papers for some odd, stupid reason because New York media are like a bunch of bulldogs.
Well, the other problem is Frazier's only got a 1-year contract over there. So
exactly.
If you want to remain in the game after this coming season, you better smarten up really quick, because if you're already starting this now, where you're getting into arguments on social media and making comments to the reporters, the Cubs are a very pride organization. They're not going to take that.
Yeah.
And now you're going to be looking for another team to go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Pittsburgh will take him.
But Sarah, you got a point, man. Every time, every way that you behave reflects on you.
Yeah.
So leaving, the way that you leave will reflect on you too. So if you leave with pride and dignity, and also give, praise and props to the organization which brought you up for the last few years, then you should do that. Because it is the Yankees, and people still hold the Yankees to an extremely high esteem, and other organizations do as well. Even if they don't want to work with them, they still hold the Yankees to an esteem. So if they see players basically burning their bridges, leaving the Yankees, they're gonna question that and be like, okay, who is this guy? And they'll be a little bit more cautious with this, with him. And I think Clint Frazier once again just showed his immaturity there. Just even if you don't believe that the Yankees helped you, which I don't think they did, so maybe he's right about that, just suck it up and just move on. Just say thank you and just move on. You know what I mean? Be an adult.
That's exactly what it is. And it's the fact that it's just like, I think the immaturity level kind of just grows with you, because if you don't smarten up, it still stays with you eventually. And it's also the people around it. I'm not talking about the team in general. I'm talking about people outside of the baseball field. You don't exactly have a stable mindset if you're around a bunch of idiots all day. It's like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, I understand we can't really judge these players off of the fields like we usually do. But listen, the media wasn't doing a great job with him either, because he always threw his shit fits in the dugout, or when he went to the media room and had to do post game. It was like, I remember the whole newspaper thing just blew up. Like,
over his
Clint
shirt
Frazier's
number. Over his shirt number. Remember that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That
like,
wasn't
why
even
77?
What was the context of that, Rob?
That wasn't even true, though. Apparently, he asked to get number 7 unretired. You really think he went to the Yankees and said, "Unretire Mickey Mantle's number for me"? He even made a joke about that on Twitter.
I think that was more as a clubhouse joke, and the wrong person overheard it and it blew up. I don't think there was any. He can't be that naive.
No.
There's no way he actually did that. Nobody in their right mind would go there and say, "Unretire this guy, Mickey Mantle, unretire his number for me." Come on. So I'm sure that's why he picked 77. It's like, well, you guys are going to make up a story about me. Guess what I'm going to do? Plus, the Yankees don't have many numbers available as it is. So there you go. And he's sticking with 77 now with the Cubs, because he's keeping the troll alive. He is doing a hell of a job. You got to admit that, because he's got people talking about him. So, I mean, he's doing something right.
That's a great point. For a dude that played like 30 games, for a dude that played like 30 games last year, was basically completely irrelevant to the Yankee organization for years, on and off. For him to be this much in the limelight in New York media is pretty impressive. You've done something right.
It is. It is, to be honest with you. It's like he's not one of the main social media guys that you look at. Like they had, I think it was last season, or maybe this season, it's like top 100 ball players on social media who are very active. Who do you think possibly was number one? Not Clint Frazier. So it's like, okay, at the end of the day, like who do you really blame here? Do you really blame the Yankees for not playing him? Of course you do. But you blame him for looking like an idiot before he goes to the Cubs and puts himself in that uniform. Because you know how many greats actually walked in that uniform before you?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like even the 2016 World Series, they have a documentary video on that just World Series season. Who does that?
You're right. Actually, superimpose an image of himself in a Cubs uniform. That's awesome.
Like I said, he's the even that he's not, even though he's not even here anymore, he's the gift that keeps on giving. And he likes the spotlight. Like I said, he may not be the most active player on Twitter, but when he is, it's entertaining. So I will give him that.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. Listen, he's
number one.
Who's what?
Who was number one on active on social media? It had to be Bauer, right? That moron was all over.
What about Stroman? Marcus Stroman.
Marcus Stroman. Yeah. The stupid ass Marcus Stroman.
There's another one who's got Yankee Twitter in an uproar.
Holy Jesus. Every single time he tweets, I'm like, shut up.
They're both Cubs now. Oh my God, that's actually perfect.
What are the Cubs doing?
Stroman and Frazier are both Cubs. Oh, Yankee Twitter is going to be on fire when it comes to playing the Cubs this year. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think they come in late June. I think June 22nd.
Something like that.
Depending on when the season starts. But the Cubs do come to New York this year.
Yeah, which is shocking, honestly, because it's like, oh, I haven't seen a Cub uniform in Yankee Stadium in quite a while.
No, that's gonna be a hot ticket.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
just for the Yankees Cubs, not even the roster. It doesn't even matter who's on the roster.
Who's on the roster? Just the uniforms itself.
Well,
it's like
pitching. If Stroman's pitching, they're going to show up, and they're going to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
Speaking of the roster, there was also something that was going around. It didn't gain a lot of traction, but I caught it and I thought it was interesting. And that's with who's going to be playing shortstop. And the idea came out of bringing Didi back bringing Didi over for 1 year. And when I teased yesterday that there was a player coming back to the Yankees, that's who I was alluding to give another year for the prospects to develop a little bit more, rather than using them in a big package to Oakland for Olsen perhaps, or whoever. Would you bring back Didi? Should Didi come back to the Bronx?
I loved him when he was here. He gave off like some electricity, and he's talented as shit off the field. The dude, literally, I know he had some stuff going on before he came to the Yankees, but I mean, if it came down to baseball, I would, but that's just me.
He's still owed about $14 million this year. He's still under contract with Philly, so you have to give up something for him. He was terrible last year. He wasn't very good his first year with Philly, and he wasn't very good for us his last year here. So what are we exactly supposed to be giving up to get him back that we wouldn't be getting out of Anderson Simmons, who would probably cost around the same price or even less? So I love Didi. I do. I got his jersey. I got his shirt. I got a shirt that says Sir Didi on. I loved him. However, for $14 million and giving up prospects to get him, no.
That's the
No, that's why I'm glad it didn't. That's why I'm glad it didn't gain any traction, because it's one of those I've been there, done that. It would be nice to have. We know what he is defensively, and it's the lefty bat in the lineup. It's also the energy in the dugout. Those are the three things that they have to look at. But it's also, you're already penny pinching for everything else. Why bring a player back that's making that kind of money where you can use those dollars elsewhere and make other upgrades?
Here's Didi's stats. Minus 0.8 WAR and a 209 batting average.
That's terrible, man.
Oh man. That's terrible.
Analytics don't line up either. Like his on base wasn't good. He wasn't really hitting for power. He's been hurt. the last couple of years as well. You got to keep that
Yeah.
into account.
Yeah, the
Six-
Tommy John.
639 OPS his last year. For the Yankees in 2018, his OPS was 829 on 796.
Ugh.
It's shot right down to 639, which is well below average. I mean,
Jesus Christ, that's terrible.
yeah,
I don't
that's
understand.
a shocking OPS, really.
That's like, no.
But you can't really compare the two. It's like apples and oranges. Maybe he didn't really fit in Philadelphia. Maybe if you went to New York, it's where he was more comfortable, and he'd obviously be a nice fit in the lineup with the lefty bat and the fact that the fans adore him. He loved being in New York Yankee, and maybe he's not feeling it in Philadelphia. Maybe a new start would actually help him. I wouldn't be surprised if it did help him, but should we bring him back? No, probably not. Because first of all, Brian Cashman will never admit to the fact that he made a mistake getting rid of him in the first place, right? Because there's people in the organization that were in his ear that was basically like, I don't think Gleyber Torres should be playing shortstop. He's a second baseman. You should bring back Didi. But Brian Cashman had it in his mind that Gleyber Torres would be the shortstop. And so he let Didi walk. And that's proven to be a huge misjudgment in terms of Gleyber Torres. And I think he probably would have gotten more out of Didi had you kept him. Just for an extra year, give him a 1-year deal, see what you could get, prove it deal. Because he did struggle in his last year, but he was also hurt. He also got hurt. So, I would have given him another chance, but no, you don't bring him back now because the horse is already bolted. You might as well look for younger. I mean, we were obviously discussing this off the air yesterday, Rob. I asked who is you prefer, Didi or Falafe, if we were to make a deal for Falafe, and you actually prefer Falafe. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's more versatile than Didi. He's a good defender. He can play all over the place. Didi's locked into the shortstop position where Falefa, whatever his name is, he can play all over. He can catch as well. He can play catcher. Everyone wants Gary Sanchez gone. There's your emergency catcher. Last year, our emergency catcher was Odor. So, I would much rather make a move for Falefa if that's the case. If that's what they want to do, if they really want to go cheap option at shortstop, then you're going to go for defense. And Falefa is far superior at this point than Didi. So,
well, he's also, he's obviously younger. I think he still has a couple of years of control, through arbitration. So that's also, something that could entice the Yankees to want to go after him. And it doesn't lock you up financially, where now you're stuck. For when you want to, put money towards other positions. And I have 2 questions I got to ask, and this one is just for Sarah. Because we already talked about it. What would you give Judge as a contract?
Oh Lord. A lot of people had asked me this, and I still couldn't even come up with a number because those people literally in the comments when they asked, or I think it was one fan page. I mean, Lord, I couldn't even tell you the answer to that because I still don't know. That's the thing. Like, people were coming up with a bunch of crazy numbers. And I'm like, honestly, he does have much left of himself, but it depends on the injury front with him too. That's another thing. Like, you got to be careful with that because it's like one season he's fine. He played 148 games this season. That's shocking for somebody who won the home run derby in 2017. But at the same time, it's like, you get rid of him, you lose half the fan base. That's another thing. So I can't even put a number on it.
So I would say, I was trying to put thought into it, and I would go 7 years, and I would go 300. And the reason I go a little higher at the 300 rate is, like you said, is something you alluded to, marketability. You're going to make that money back.
Yeah.
And also, 7 years, you'll be 36, and then you could start playing the Gardner role where maybe, you give him another year and see how he's still able to play.
Yes.
So maybe the 7 years with, the club option or player option for an 8th year. But, when you look at, like a $300 million contract, you also have to look, think about how much money is that really going to be in 5 years? It's not going to be that much.
That's
No.
true.
Because the money's, the AAV is going to continue to increase over the next couple of years, where it might look like he's got a low level deal.
Yeah.
I saw that what is with Stanton. What is it? 26 million a year. Who would have wanted to, if he was a free agent today? Yeah, he has 4 years. That's 26 million. You would want to sign that contract.
Great contract. Terrific.
Yeah.
That's a steal.
So we could stop talking about Stanton's money, because he's not making as much as some other players are now, where at the time he was one of the top paid.
Yeah.
So the narrative is shifting. And I think with Judge, you can have that same narrative shift, after the initial sticker shock of the contract.
Due to his injury history, I would be sorry, Rob. You say you finish your point.
No, I was just gonna say, you talk about Judge's marketability. Look at when you go to Yankee Stadium, how many 99 jerseys and shirts do you see? There you go. They have a damn section of the stadium for him. Like, they didn't do that for Jeter. They didn't.
No, they didn't.
For Rivera. They didn't do that for any of those guys in the 90s. They didn't do that for A-Rod, thank God. But they do it for Aaron Judge. They do it for Aaron Judge. He's bringing new fans to the game. People like Aaron Judge, like younger fans. They wear his jerseys. They hold the gavels and they wear the Judge outfit and they have fun with it. You make your money back with Aaron Judge, and that's why you can't let him go. It's not like the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts because they were trying to do a little bit of a retooling. You can't let go of Aaron Judge. He's too important to the franchise.
No, the window to move Judge was 2 years ago. That if they were going to do it, that would have been the time. And you still have Stanton in the outfield. So because everybody forgot he was actually an outfielder. So, they weren't handcuffing themselves if they moved on from Judge, because, but I think, and you're biting your nails. I'm making you nervous talking about trading Judge. So
it's like, because I'm sitting there and I did like a reaction video or whatever it was after he came out with his last interview. And I literally was like sitting there, like, imagine these kids not being able to walk into the stadium and not seeing him in the outfield. Everyone has a conniption when they don't see him in the lineup. Imagine not seeing him in the stadium. It's like, Jesus, like, what happened? So at the end of the day, it's like, I don't even know what to tell you, because there's so many mixed conversations with him. Like, oh, you should trade him here. Or there was a bunch of people saying, oh, trade him to the Giants. What is he going to do with the freaking Giants?
Well, there was originally, when we were having an episode on the trade deadline, we actually had a package where he would be involved in a trade with the Padres. Because the Padres were on, they were high competitive still at the time. They fell off afterwards.
Yeah.
And they have top prospects that would fill a lot of holes that the Yankees had. Mackenzie Gore was a big piece of that trade. From them, because we would looking for pitching with, to take over for Kluber. So it wasn't that we were jumping through hoops trying to trade into any which way team. It was like, if you're going to, at least put him in a position where he has the chance for success.
Yeah.
But
that
he
was
has
another thing.
Success here. Go ahead, Donald.
There's no proof that the Yankees are going to go on any run at any time soon. The track record with Boone says that they're just going to be a mediocre team that skirts into a wild card game.
So his birthday's going to be in April, right? I think he's going to turn 30 in April.
Yeah.
We have to bear in mind his age. I wouldn't go 7 years with his injury history. I would give him a 5-year contract, possibly plus an option over the 6th. No more than that. For an age 30,
you're going to have to give him extra years to lock it up.
For his lack of durability, I would give him that, and I would give him 30 mil per year. So it's what, 150 million over 5. 180 over 6. I would say that's something.
No, you're gonna have to go higher years, because he's not, at that point he's not gonna want to try to going back into free agency. So he's gonna.
I don't want a 35-year-old right fielder, man, especially with his legs and injuries. So you have to be smart about that.
That's true.
Well,
the football years killed him.
What?
The football years killed him when he played in high school. So yeah, it's like, oh, okay. But at the end of the day, like I look at it, and at the same time, it's like if you were to just get rid of him, having him just on the free agent market is going to open a lot of eyes. Like, why the hell is he there? That's what everybody's going to think.
Never
like, why is he there?
Happen.
Exactly. It would never happen. No. Exactly.
They have to re-sign him. They just have to be smart about it.
I think the maximum is 7. The maximum you can give him is 7, maybe 8. I don't think you go to 10 because then you're locking him up till he's nearly 40. But yeah, this is a guy, and I don't like when people compare it to the Red Sox trading Betts because people keep forgetting they gave up David Price in that trade, so they were clearing salary. It wasn't and they didn't get a ton of prospects back. They got Verdugo and guys that have not done anything yet. So, I mean, I keep bringing that up. The Red Sox comparison is not fair in this case. No. Boston was doing a transition. The Yankees are not going through a transition. They're not trying to rebuild. Not when you have this much money tied to your roster. You don't trade Aaron Judge if you're trying to win a championship. It doesn't make sense. You're not getting a major league ready player right now that's going to replace him. If it wasn't for Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, we don't sniff a playoff spot last year.
I don't even think we have a winning record that last year.
Exactly. We're a very bad team. So you have to hold on to him because when he's healthy, he's a top 5 player in the league. People forget how good he's been since he came up in 2017 or since he became a regular everyday player. He was the MVP that year. Screw you, Altuve. It was Aaron Judge. And every year that he's played and when he's healthy, when he's on the field, you don't find many players that do what he can do offensively and defensively. You don't trade that because you want to get a potential prospect and you're trying to win a championship. That's just stupid.
Exactly.
He's the face of the franchise.
Well, that's why you have to give him the extra years, Don. To go back to Donald's argument is you have Stanton here for I think it's 4 years. Okay. So if Judge gets 7, then when Stanton leaves, Judge takes that role where you fill him in an outfield spot, but he's your primary DH. So you're getting him off of the field as he's getting into the later years, which might preserve him a little bit more, and you have the option of plugging him in to give somebody an off day because you know that he's going to be a reliable outfielder. He may not be a day outfielder those last 3 years, but we've made it work with Stanton. I think it could work just as easily with Judge to do that.
That's working on the assumption that he's going to be healthy over the first 5 years of the deal anyway. He's not really proven that yet. This the past year was his healthiest he's been in a while. So that was a good sign.
Well, this coming season, I want to see him do what he did last year, and that's read the game. In the first inning, you don't need to dive head first into the stands for a ball. Where you saw that he was more aware of the situations of the game. All right, this is a situation where I got to hustle that extra step and dive. And I think that's what it helped preserve his health this year. And if he carries it into 2022 and beyond, I think he's going to be a lot healthier of a player because he doesn't have to prove himself anymore. We all know what he is, and he knows what kind of player he is. So I think you're going to see the same style Judge that we saw in 21 and we're going to see in 22.
I mean, one of his injuries, he got hit in the hand or in the wrist, and the people like you're injury prone because you got hit by a 99-mile-an-hour pitch in your hand.
And the other one was, cracking a rib diving for a ball.
Yeah. And he had a collapsed lung. That's scary stuff. The injuries sometimes they're freak things that happen. You're playing in a game where you're forced to run around a lot. Things are going to happen when you're 6'7". So yeah, you have to take that into account. You're gonna eventually something's gonna break down a little bit, but you know, you gotta at that point you just gotta be like, all right, well, if he has another 4 or 5 years in a row where he's playing like this, where you give him days off every so often because it worked. Maybe the yoga thing does work that him and Stanton were doing because this is the
It
healthiest.
did.
So
It did. It did work.
Go
That's
through
what I
with it.
said.
You know,
Yeah.
and now you found, if you find something that works, stick with it. You know, so well, Sarah, we really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us today.
So you have one more question for
Thank
Sarah. You have one more question for Sarah. You said you had 2 questions for Sarah.
Who,
You asked for
Holy
one,
God.
and then you
Yep.
were like, okay,
good.
see
You know, we
later.
got so into the judge conversation, I almost
Oh
forgot.
my! You said the Jets.
Who do you see
What is
playing,
going
who do you
on?
see playing
Are you
first
losing
base?
it?
What did you say?
Who do you see playing first base next year?
Oh God. Well, I love Anthony Rizzo, but oh God. There, you know what it is? There's just so much speculation with like the infield itself, because the infield is kind of what helps you win those championship games or what helps you actually win games during the season. So honestly, it's if it's not Rizzo, are they willing to spend the money on Matt Olson? I don't know. Because
To trade for him?
yeah. Like, I don't know if they're willing to even do that, because at the same time, like if I had to put in a lock, it would be Anthony Rizzo. If they're not willing to find somebody else, or knowing Cashman, let's bring up a minor league guy to play first base. First of all,
We don't have
exactly. So it's like, let's just bring up this random guy to play first base. First of all the randoms that came up and played first base didn't necessarily play first base consistently. Yeah. So you have to think about somebody who's actually won Gold Gloves at first base. That's where you need to think. And second, he's a lefty bat, and you need people on base. Walk, for God's sake. Anthony Rizzo knows how to walk. And third, it's like, at the end of the day, knowing how Cashman is, Rizzo is the last option. That's what I think.
Yeah,
I think he is too. I think it'd be an Olsen trade, but I would go the route of signing Freeman. Or Freeman would be my first choice. Then I'd look into Rizzo. I love Rizzo. You know I love Rizzo. Rizzo was what? He was clutch last year. He was clutch, and he was a gamer, and he was just like, he had that little bit of confidence about him. He's like, I'm an awesome first baseman. You guys just throw me the ball, catch it. I mean, that's what you kind of want. He was a leader. Yeah, you know, he was a leader, and there was only 2 people that bothered to turn up in the wild card game. One was Stanton, the other was Rizzo. Rizzo hit a home run, and he was a baller. So naturally, of course, he's our last option. We shouldn't treat him as our last option. I've always been a big Rizzo fan. I think he was the best acquisition we've made in years. Yes. He's the best acquisition we made.
You could thank Jack Curry for that, because he was the one who came out with it. I was like, what is he talking about? Not even an hour later, Yankee fans just blew up. Everyone was just like, oh, like, what's going on? Yeah, I couldn't even put my phone down, because it was like, I heard all the Rizzo rumors going on, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Somebody say something. Like, I'm gonna die.
Say something.
I was like, somebody say something. So then, of course, Jack Curry comes out with it before, you know, Jeff Passan and the rest of the freaking idiots. He gives me a heart attack anyway. I can't stand Passan.
I would say best case scenario, it's Rizzo at this point. Worst case scenario, it's LeMahieu or Voit. That if they go that route, then we're in trouble. I do not want.
If LeMahieu's playing first base, that means that Torres is playing short.
It means he's playing
second.
Yeah, you got to keep Glaber at second. I'm sorry, seeing him at shortstop, and you're playing all these good teams that 99% of the time will hit to shortstop. How many balls has Glaber missed? drives me nuts.
All of them. He was awful.
Exactly. He's like missing all of them. And like people don't realize that second base and shortstop are not the same in dimensions. I feel like you're covering more at shortstop and doing more of a job at shortstop than you are at second base.
Of course, shortstop's the captain of the infield, man. You need to have a competent shortstop, or your infield's gonna fall apart. And that's why our infield fell apart.
That's
ridiculous.
exactly what it is. Yeah, it was.
No sense.
And the shoes you have to fill just to play at shortstop. Every other base in the infield and the outfield has changed with a bunch of players over the years. Who was the only consistent position? Shortstop. Why? Because we had one. Who was Jeter's backup when Jeter played? Did Jeter ever have a backup?
Jose Vizcaíno.
Vizcaíno, maybe Enrique Wilson, maybe Luis Sojo.
It was that 1 year. It was Eduardo Nunez.
Yes.
Oh, Eduardo Scissorhands. Eduardo Scissorhands. Oh, he was bad. now we've got Glaber Scissorhands, so it's cool.
That's another thing. Like nobody remembers the backups. Everyone is just like, "Oh, Jeter's there." That's why
I remember the backups. I love the backups. Sorry, Soho was awesome.
No, on those teams, the best players, were legit.
Luis Soho, who tripped over a shoelace. Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, he was, but still, everyone is just like scared to play at shortstop now because it's like, oh, shortstop anywhere else. It's just like it's like a bubblegum game. Then you come shortstop.
That's why I didn't understand why we moved on so quickly from Didi. We actually managed to find somebody that wasn't like overawed by inheriting the blessed shortstop position of Derek Jeter. He struggled at first, and then he just took off. And then, of course, Brian Cashman, because has to be the smartest guy in the room, so he had to move on from him. So I have a feeling that he might be the smartest guy in the room again and move on from Rizzo. You know, you find something that works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's often a very good policy.
Yeah. We're just intimidated by him on the Yankees now with Rizzo. It's like, oh, shit. He could play the coaching position if he wanted to. He could do this if he wanted to. I'm like, yeah, because there's not many guys that could do that. And Freeman, if Atlanta were to ever let him go, Atlanta is going to burn down. I'm telling you that right now. Atlanta will burn down because knowing how many Freeman jerseys do you see at Truist Park every season? It's like going and seeing Judge jerseys at Yankee Stadium. It's the same thing. Dodgers don't have those players. You saw Seager. They lost Seager. They're done. Who are you going to fill in at shortstop? Another prospect?
Yeah.
Where prospects go? Or Chris Taylor.
But it's on the Braves. It's on the Braves for not re-signing him by now. If they don't sign him, it's on them. They've had ample opportunity.
I thought he was.
Yeah,
I thought before the shutdown he was going to get locked up.
They haven't done it. So if I were Brian Cashman, I'd be like, right, okay, well, what's your price? Because it would send shockwaves through MLB if Freddie Freeman was a New York Yankee playing first.
Oh, I know it would. It would shockingly would. And I'm like, and I even said this. I was like, going to the MLB wife perspective. If you want to bring Freeman here, you better build his wife a damn freaking clothing store. Because that woman already has a clothing line. You better give his whole family something if you want to bring him here. But necessarily, like I said, Atlanta will go up in flames if he leaves.
Yeah, that would be scary. I would really feel bad for a lot of Braves fans if they have that happen.
Especially coming off of a World Series.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yankees already made that mistake with Matsui.
Yep.
Exactly. Smartest guy in the room again. Oh, let's move on from our MVP. That's a great idea. Nick Johnson. Yeah. Come on in.
And they said A-Rod was an option for MVP. Okay, sure. Knowing what A-Rod did.
One good postseason, and they want to praise him for the rest of his life.
Screw him.
Screw him.
Here we go. I like A-Rod.
Stand him. I can't fucking stand him.
I like A-Rod. I don't care.
He pisses me off. I can't deal with him.
The worst color commentator I've ever heard. There's some bad color commentators. He is the worst. He brings nothing.
Just have an episode of cursing out A-Rod, because I will gladly be number one in that conversation. Oh my God, his commentating is so bad. He pauses between sentences, and then he lets Joe Buck take over on another channel, who's just as bad. I'm done.
We all gotta wrap things up tonight. Hope you all had a really, really good time. We had a lot of fun. Just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our social medias in the description. Wear your pinstripes for pride and play hard.